Welcome to Mind Your Mental Health channel. This is our 17th episode. In this episode, we are going to talk about mental illness. It's an introduction to the concept of the mental illness, an overview of mental illness. Last episode, we discussed about normal and abnormal mind. I discussed certain aspects of the abnormal mind. Now, if you compare that with the information what you get from this episode, you will be able to understand mental illness better. So, to explain about the mental illness, I am going to initially talk about physical illness so that you are able to understand much easier, because we know more about physical illness in a day-to-day life than the mental illness. In a physical illness, we use three words interchangeably. These words are disorder, illness, disease. They are used interchangeably, but it has a different meaning. Each has its own connotation. It's a very common English word. So, disorder. What is disorder? Disorder means something which was in order has become disorder. To give an example in a physical health parlance, my blood pressure was normal from my younger days till my 60th year. Around 60 years, my GP said, your blood pressure is high. And he said, I need to run some tests and then we need to see what is happening. And then he runs blood tests and few tests, and then he says, your blood pressure is more than normal level, normal variation. So I think you're suffering from high blood pressure. In a medical parlance, it's called as hypertensive disorder. So what it means is my blood pressure was normal all along, now it has become abnormal. So that is disorder. When we talk about illness, when I say ill, that denotes some illness or suffering. So I'm suffering. So I have this knee pain for quite some time now, and it's quite painful. It's all there all the time. I can't climb steps, I can't go for a walk because it's so painful. I'm always suffering with this pain. And I love football, so I can't play football. So all these things now because I'm suffering. That suffering is illness. So rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatoid disease or rheumatoid illness can be illness. So illness denotes suffering. Then disease. This is another word we use in physical health. Disease means there is something disease going on. Some parts, some tissues are getting diseased. Infectious diseases, we call it as the title of all the infections, diseases together, viral, bacterial, all those things, we call it as infectious diseases. What it means is an organism, a bacteria or viral, gets into my system and starts attacking my tissues or my cells. And my cells are getting affected and they are getting damaged, diseased. That is called disease. So let's bring this concept into mental illnesses. So what is disorder in a mental illnesses? My mood was fine from my younger days till my 25th year of age. Now I was doing fine. Now my mind, there was some mood fluctuation, but everything fine within normal level like anybody else. At the age of around 25 years, I started feeling very high. I was very happy, cheerful, ecstatic, elated. My mood went through the roof. I was thinking so many things, I'm doing so many things, and it became very abnormal. Then they diagnosed me with mania. So this is called as mood disorder. Under mood disorder, we have a number of other diagnostic group. One is mania. So mood disorder is where it denotes that mood was normal over a period of time and then it has become abnormal. Now it has become mania. So that is in a mental health or mental illness concept. So let's see what is illness. Illness, I said, it denotes suffering. Depressive illness. When a person goes through depression, they suffer. It is a psychological pain. They feel very low, down. They don't feel like talking to anyone. They feel crying. They feel hopeless. They feel worthless. They lose concentration. They lose confidence in them. They can't sleep. They don't have appetite. And they feel, why this is happening to me? So that is a suffering. So we can call it as a depressive illness. So that defines the ill feeling in the person. Disease, where the tissues are affected. One of the disorder is called mental illness is called Alzheimer's disease or dementia, where brain cells gets affected due to different processes, and that affects the memory, concentration, attention, and orientation also. In a severe form, they will lose everything. They lose the memory about everything. They may not recognize their own relatives, their son or a daughter or a wife. They may not know where they are. They may not know which time, which date. So that is the severe form of disease process which goes on in the brain tissues, and that is called dementia. And one particular type of dementia is called Alzheimer's disease. So it explains things can go from normal to abnormal, order to disorder, or it can be ill, suffering, it can be a disease process. Any of this can lead to mental illnesses. So how do we find out the person is suffering from mental illness? How do we say, okay, you are suffering from this illness? There are a few things we need to know. Now we need to keep in mind. There is something called criteria, and there are certain things we look for. Important thing is signs and symptoms. Every mental illness, there are hundreds of mental illness. Each mental illness has a particular sign and a symptom. Symptom is what we see. What patient comes and tells us a symptom. I have a headache, or I have a cough. What he tells, that is a symptom. We say, okay, you have a cough. Cough is one of the symptoms. Then I use my stethoscope and put my stethoscope on his chest and then listen to lung sounds from the lung. Then I hear certain sounds. I say crepitations. There are certain sounds, abnormal sounds coming from your lung. That is sign. So symptoms and signs are necessary to work out a diagnosis or work out, say that person is suffering from this particular illness. So sign and symptom. Symptom is what patients or person tell us. Sign is what I make out. Yeah, as a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a mental health professional. Making out a sign or a symptom is not alone to make a diagnosis. I'll tell you. I come and tell you, I'm very down, I'm crying. Last evening I was crying all through. I didn't sleep last night. I ask him why. And he says, I lost my ring, gold ring. Now, very nice, lovely ring, but it has sentimental value. So I'm feeling so down since yesterday. Yesterday evening I was crying and I couldn't sleep well last night. I was just tossing around. But ultimately I slept. Now morning I got up. Now I don't feel like crying now, but still I feel down. I feel sad. Can I make a diagnosis of depression here? No, we need to wait, because this small ups and down in life is managed ourselves. We have a system which manages it. Say yesterday I was crying, today I didn't cry. Tomorrow I may not feel even sad. I may feel bit annoyed. Why did I lose this? I should have been a little more careful. Then 2 days later, I might say, okay, life is like that. We might lose things, but I need to carry on. We carry on. We might even forget it. We might buy something else, some other ring or something. We'll substitute for something else. Then we carry on. So that is not depression. That is not mental illness. That is normal reaction to a life event. Everybody will go through life event. Failure in examination, not getting my promotion, having some problem with the relationship, my partner, there's a problem with our relationship. All those can lead to fluctuations in my mood. So I feel a little low, but I get over it. So duration is very important. The signs and symptoms which I look for should be adequate duration to make a diagnosis or say that there is a mental illness. So, for example, symptoms should have lasted for at least 4 weeks to say, okay, this person is suffering from a mental disorder. So, there are different duration for different diseases or different illnesses or different disorders. So signs and symptoms are important. We need to elicit that, and we need to look at how long it's been going on. Duration is also important. Then intensity. How intense is that? How intense and how disabling it is. Whether it's leading on to some risk behavior. All those things are also very important. So signs and symptoms, duration of signs and symptoms, and the intensity, how long it has been going on. And then we need to look at what it made, what caused. So look into the why this has happened. So it's kind of a what we call etiology, why this has happened. We take some information about that also. Then we need to see what effect it has on that person's life, what impairment it caused. I'm depressed. I've been depressed for 4 weeks now. I've been having all this, whatever I said. I feel sleepless. I don't have appetite. I feel constantly low. I've lost interest in everything. I used to love football. I don't even watch now. I become irritable. I am not able to concentrate. I lack confidence now. I can't do the work I used to do confidently. All these things have been continuously there for 4 weeks now. Then I'll say, I'm not able to work. My impairment. I'm not able to communicate. I used to love my family. Now I don't talk to them now. These are all impairments. So impairment is also very important. How impairing this particular symptom, the constellation of symptom, dictates what we make as a diagnosis of mental illnesses. So all these things are important. Now, when we look at the signs and symptoms, I said there are 5 functions of the mind: perception, thought, emotions, behavior, attention, concentration, and memory. When these individual functions are affected, that can manifest as a symptom or a sign. I'll give an example. So in a thought level, what symptom I can get? So when my mind becomes abnormal, I have a mental illness, my thought can become disturbed. That become abnormal thought. Abnormal thought, what thought I could have? Suddenly I start thinking that MI5 agent, I'm a secret agent, secret services agent. I am employed by a government, nobody knows about that. In fact, which is not the fact, which is not the reality. I'm working in a different capacity. I'm a doctor working in a health sector. But I think that I am a MI5 agent. Then I think everybody is following. There are agents from other nations, other countries. They are following me wherever I go. I can see they're making gestures at me. And I also look at the cameras. Everywhere there are cameras focusing on me all the time. They're monitoring me all the time because they want to hurt me. This is abnormal thought, which is very, very kind of intense. Friends tell me that is not right. You're so and so. You're not an agent. You're not a MI5. But I don't believe in them because my thought is unshakable. Now it's firm, fixed. I am definitely believing I'm an MI5 agent. That is an abnormal thought. This is what we call delusion. Delusion is unshakable false belief, which is not in keeping with their cultural, educational, or life background. It's completely out of the blue, completely out of its nature. Then we call it as... So this delusion can become a symptom, or we call it as a symptom or a sign of a disorder. So that's how we look at each function of the mind and elicit signs and symptoms and then come to a conclusion that this is mental illness. So in this episode, we talked about concepts of the mental illness. I said about physical illnesses and then talked about mental illnesses. So that if you have listened to this episode and if you also listened to the previous one where I talked about normal and abnormal mind, both together will give you some clarity about mental illnesses and mind. And next episode we are going to talk about diagnosis and classification. Then we'll take on individual mental illnesses. Like for example, one episode will be fully for depression. What is depression, how it manifests, treatment, all those things. So do follow us. Do keep in touch. Thank you for watching this channel. Bye.